response diminish and subside. It means that the fish are satiated and that they have full bellies, and they will stop feeding at that point in time. The highest operating cost for a fish farmer is the feed that goes into his fish. It's a high quality, nutrient-dense pellet, and we want to make sure that they maximize every pellet that goes into the cages, so they do not continue feeding beyond when the fish are full. You don't want any pellets at all to get down below your fish. For securing fingerlings, we've formed a relationship with hatcheries in Southern Ontario. So a lot of small little hatcheries in Southern Ontario that had previously tried to grow rainbow trout up to a market size and then distribute through little niche markets now all grow fingerlings for the cage culture operator. This is Lake Wosley. This is the causeway, which joins up to the North Channel, so that's to the greater part of Lake Huron. This is Meeker's Aquaculture, and they have actually 16 cages, but they do a form of inside fallowing, so he's not actually using all of his cages all of the time, part of his environmental program there. And then up in behind, where you can see a cleared area, is where he has the fish composting operation up in behind his farm.
When I started, no one had done this. You know, Gord was working out his things in Parry Sound, and you couldn't go to someone and say, how do I do this? You know, because no one was doing it. So you had to, and I've made so many mistakes, it's phenomenal. I could write a book on the mistakes I've made. The only way to do it was to try to think theoretically, what's the best way to do this, do it, and then know that you were going to be dealing with problems, because you did not anticipate all the problems that you could have. Mother Nature always throws a new wrinkle into the thing. You know, just when you think you're getting clever and you've got it figured out, she reminds you. No, you don't. No matter what you do, this kind of an industry is manual labor, and I like that. I mean, I think, you know, you don't want to make it too easy mechanically wise. You know, that's farming. You're never going to get away from that. There's a lot of grunt work involved in farming, but if you can minimize that stress on the fish, first of all, but also stress on your people, you know, where they don't have to work as physically hard day after day after day. You know, and that's what that machine does. So it makes it easier to harvest and grading. Like this table right here, what we'll do is when we're grading fish, which we just finished doing with these two cages, I had 50,000 fish in that cage. That machine lifts the fish up without harming them, drops them on this table, and then we just stand here, which I don't have right now. But the fish come down the table and we stand here with a hockey stick and you flip them this way or this, like the big ones, like generally we're grading into big little. You know, so I had 50,000 fish, I wanted 25,000, the smallest ones here, the 25,000 biggest ones here. So you stand here with a stick or your hands or whatever, and you flip the big ones this way and the little ones this way, and you have a pipe coming off here that goes to whatever net you're going to move them into. And it works well, you know, and it minimizes the stress on the fish, because dipping them is stressful on the fish. Yeah. And it's hard work. Why would I consider shipping fish to Russia or Japan when we're not even growing what we need here in Ontario? You know, this buy your food from 100-kilometer or 100-mile radius movement, and rightfully so, in my opinion, is getting a lot bigger. So why in the heck are we buying fish from Argentina, Peru, and Chile when we can grow them right here? And we've proven for 30 years that we can do it in an environmentally responsible way. I mean, it's crazy. But, you know, here we are looking at potentially shipping fish out of the country. we should be growing other species of fish. You know, I mean, in history, and it's not just fish, it's anything. When you can't catch enough food, that's when you start to grow it. And we can't catch enough fish. The fisheries all over the world, you know. I'm not saying the Great Lakes, but the fisheries, particularly the ocean fisheries, they can't catch enough fish. Nowhere near the demand, like they can't catch enough fish. So that's why we started growing fish. And that's why it needs to expand, because the demand for fish is increasing dramatically. Everybody knows that. And we can't catch them. So it's I mean, for the first time in human history, that just happened last year, didn't it, Karen?
It was 50%.
Human beings are now eating, more than 50% of the fish that they're eating is grown rather than caught.
Oh, really?
For the first time in human history. Now that's a huge, you know, milestone. That's a huge number. And it's been, you know, we've been waiting for that for what, last 5 to 10 years.
So I always get a chuckle out of the people that are in the pro-eat wild salmon movement, and they're the same people that are saying save the wild salmon. Well, yes, that's really important, but it's hard to save them by eating them.
Yeah,
And
it's hard to save them.
That. It's the same, and they say it in the same breath, that people don't make that connection, you know. Oh, I only eat wild salmon. We're going to save the wild salmon. But it's hard to save them by eating them.
Especially if demand is increasing and the number of fish that are out there is less.
Yeah.
How are you going to feed that without catching more fish, which, you know, is just, it's just making the problem worse. I should have grabbed a feed scoop so I can actually feed these guys. There's staggering numbers of wild fish around here. Now, normally they're not eating my food, because people ask me all the time. You know, they're here because of the waste food. But what they're doing in actual fact is sheltering around the nets and picking up bugs and spiny water flea and mysis and freshwater shrimp that live off the nets. So these nets provide shade and shelter and also a substrate for all these bugs to grow on that they feed off of. So generally what you're seeing is them not eating my feed, because if we wasted feed, we wouldn't be in business. The feed is far too expensive to waste. $1,500 a ton, you can't waste it. You know, I spend $600,000 to $700,000 a year on feed. If I was wasting even 5% of that, I'd be out of business. So it's not the waste feed that they clean it up pretty quickly. I don't know, I mean, underneath, all you're seeing there is a top layer of perch. It's created a whole ecosystem here, which is really neat, because the perch are all around, the bass are all around, the suckers and the carp are on the bottom, eating the stuff on the bottom. There's pike coming around to feed off those fish. So it's creating, like, I use the analogy all the time, and it's an apt analogy of, this is like an oasis in the middle of a desert.